assignment. I have my paper toned here, and then I set up a still life with some more textured objects that maybe are a little bit more. Usually these are the things students don't want to draw because they just get kind of busy because there's a lot of things. So this is just a potted plant that I had, and then this was a leaf from a plant that I had that died this summer, and I let it dry out and saved it. So once you start drawing all this weird stuff, then you find yourself collecting it to draw later. But you can see there's a lot of texture in this handmade pot by Northlake student, and the dirt and the branches, and I don't know what this is. I mean, I don't know if this is a tree or a plant. I don't know what it would classify as, but you can see different textures, and then in the background. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. So with that, there's going to be a lot of texture. You may, limit this. Technically, I guess you could say this is 3 objects because I have this, the pot, and the plant. But you may not, don't add probably too many things because you're going to be, overwhelmed because of all the stuff. So this is one you may also want to draw larger because drawing larger will help you. Kind of fill your space more, and those tighter areas of like the textures and stuff will be easier if they're much larger. And then remember, it is the whole composition, not just floating objects. So you will want to put, a fabric down of some kind, a towel, a sheet, something, or a cardboard box like you saw in the example. That could work too. So whenever you get ready to do that, you can just start on your paper just like we did before. You may think, does this look better horizontal or vertical, depending on your setup. And I tend to do more vertical ones, but I thought I would do a more horizontal one with this. And so I'm going to, my paper is like coming off of the board. I think it got wet. All right, so I'm going to try to include the pot, and then the background. I thought it would be nice to have that big leaf. I can't remember what that plant was called, but anyway, so I'm going to draw a quick gesture first. And again, this is the gesture. Drawing that fast and getting your composition down, that's going to be the key to starting and finishing a little bit faster. Don't take too much time with details, just sketching it out. So yeah, I know that the plant's here and there's a lot going on here, but I'm not going to waste my time doing all that right now. I'm just going to kind of sketch it out where it will go. And with texture, as I said before, drawing larger is going to be so helpful because when you're drawing larger, you're going to have more area to work in. And the reason I said whoops when I stood up is because you have to remember wherever you're sitting, if you move, your view is going to be completely different. So you have to kind of stay put or take a photo to use as a reference. And another thing about like super textured objects is, if you don't count every single thing and it's just some pretty close to it, it's probably not going to, you never usually display the photo next to the or the still life next to the work of art. So you usually can get, unless it's something that you really need to see all those details, you can do a pretty good job just by doing your best. And But with this, I'll probably go back, later. I'm just trying to put it all where it goes. So now once you get the general sketch done, that's when you can start blocking in and working more with the values, erasing the highlights, putting in the shadows. I'm going to go in a little more aggressive with the compressed charcoal. Oops. So as you've probably learned by now, working with the charcoal, I find that the more that you have on the surface, the easier it is to manipulate. Where if you have just a little bit on there, it's kind of hard to move it around. And if my background is darker, I always like to block that in because it kind of helps me from being distracted so much by that area. All right, so the rest is just going to be kind of going in and looking at each area. And one thing I noticed when some of you turned in some of your projects a little early, and some of you are having sort of halos around your objects. And so I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about that and kind of show you how to avoid having that. It's almost like some of you are scared to bring to get rid of the line, but that's what you need to be focusing on is purging the lines from your work and just looking closer at areas that are darker or lighter. And so like inside of this pot, I'm going to grab a charcoal. So inside of this pot, the dirt is, pretty dark, but then the back of the pot is kind of highlighted. So that will help create the edge. And then the black sheet goes right up to the edge here. So I can erase that back lip of the pot right up until that edge, and then I can go ahead and start filling in my dirt in the pot here. Obviously that's not the texture. I'm going to go in and work on that more. But do you see how I have now, and this edge is a little, it's not bright white, so I can come in and shade it accordingly. But do you see how I don't have like a white halo around the object? So if you see my comments talking about that, that's what really what I mean by that. I have so many partially started drawings in my studio right now from all these demos because I have 2 drawing classes and I have a painting class, a design class, but I'm also still helping out quite a bit in my division because we don't have a dean right now. So I really do wish I had time to finish all of these, even though this is completely different from the kind of artwork I normally do as my own kind of style. It's still just good practice, and I find doing these kind of more academic studies, they're just good practice, whatever level you're at. It's good to, hone in on your skills and, challenge yourself. All right, so then if I wanted to come in and start looking closer I like the texture and the dirt, I can come in with like my little retractable eraser. I could also, if I, like working more with the white charcoal pencil, because I do see some of those little, I don't know what they are that's in the dirt. I could use that. Just remember, you don't want to mix this with the charcoal, or it'll create like a kind of gray that doesn't look like everything else. And then I can come in and start working on the plant too. And when you have textured objects, always look at the edges and compare the value of those objects to the objects that are next to it, because that will help you get those more accurate. And then just work your way around to everything else. And then as I sorry, my dogs are barking. As I get through with the stem here, and I get up to the leaves, at that part I would probably, let me see if I can, I'll do a part of that for you. So it sounds like my neighbors decided to do yard work, and that's going to make my dogs bark quite a bit more. But all right, so this is that little stalk right here. So to me, this part, the main reason I wanted to draw this is because of this kind of area here. Inside of this, what I notice is these little kind of triangle shapes, they're actually darker, and then the area around it, the kind of outline is what is a kind of what the highlight is, the outline. So I can come in and kind of look at those like this. Or I could kind of shade it and then come in with the white charcoal if I wanted to, but I think this way is going to be more natural looking. So you just want to look close at everything. And then as I get closer to the top with the actual leaves, at that point, I would probably, re-sketch those out. I will probably tone or put the compressed charcoal all over the background first and then erase those out, because I think it'll be easier to do that than to kind of go around them with the charcoal. So don't be afraid to do that with the compressed charcoal, because it is erasable. So you can use the side of it, and really start to work that into. And then if you're having a hard time with those halo areas around your work, what you can do is come back in with these little blenders, and that will help you. Maybe if you can't do it with your finger, it will help you bring that charcoal right to the edge and also kind of clean up areas. And you just have to kind of go back in with your eraser and refine shapes, and then you can smudge this out. And that will help you work it into the paper. I personally like to use my finger if it's a larger area, because I feel like I can control rubbing it into the paper and making it really look like it's going back. But that's the biggest part I've noticed is a lot of you'll bring like the charcoal to here, and then there's like a halo around your object. So you want to come back in, just like, let's say I'll do this area here. with the handle of this pot. Bring that charcoal right up to the edge, or whatever value it is, whether it's a highlight or a shadow. And don't be afraid of losing the shape. Like, you have control whether you're erasing or adding the charcoal. So, you know, if I got too far into my the shape of the pot, I can use my eraser to go back in and redefine that edge. If I erase too much out, I can use my charcoal pencil to come back in and kind of redefine that edge that way. So use both tools, and that will help you have like a really refined and clean drawing. So just focus on all those textures up close, and you know, have fun with it, kind of get lost in them, and play around. And always what I do is take a step back, and I will see, like, well, is that getting that illusion that I want? Does that look like that, or do I need to find another way to look at that? So anyway, I hope that you find that helpful, and you have fun with this assignment. But again, drawing larger is the key. So imagine if I had a pile of like popcorn or something. That's a really textured object, and I just filled the page, and like a kernel was like the size of, you know, this pot. Like that would make a pretty nice thing. Right now at the stores, they have a lot of those gourds, those little like, pumpkin gourd things. Those are kind of fun. They have all kinds of weird textures on them. So you may just kind of look around and see what you can find to draw, and focus on those textures. But draw them large so you can really get in and look closer at the areas and have plenty of space to work. Okay. So did anybody have any questions? No? I gotta wash my hands off before I can touch my computer. They're covered in charcoal. Yeah, a lot of people are asking me, like, is this so much easier working from your home studio? And I'm like, no, I don't have a sink in my little bedroom, or you know, there's no teaching assistants to help clean up afterwards. So it's taken some getting used to, and like I'm having to use. I only have like one drawing board, so like this has my design one project on the back, and then I have another one with my paintings. So I understand. I know if you're taking more than one art class, I'm teaching 6 right now, just, you know, from one room.
Wow.
So it gets pretty, yeah.
Fancy.
Yeah, I have tiled like everywhere for each class because there's different supplies and stuff. So anyway, but hopefully that will help you all. And so that this week's focus is just texture and just doing your best. So if your still life that you used before, you know, had a lot of texture to it, and you want to do the same one, you can, but you may want to try setting up another still life. Normally, if we were at the college, the first still life that I would have set up would have been mostly all white objects, and then the one that we would be doing now, I would put like skeletons and, you know, all kinds of textured objects. We have a bunch of like mask and fake plants and stuff like that that I would have added, you know, to the pile. So some people find it whenever they're focusing on objects that are darker and they're not white. Some people like that more because they're not afraid to get too dark with the charcoal. So you may find it easier working with like darker objects that aren't lighter. But I don't think I told you all you had to use, you know, white objects for the first one. But anyway. All right, well, if you don't have any more questions, it sounds like my neighbors are getting more close to my window with their lawn mowing equipment, so it might get a little bit noisier. But I'll post the link to this recording, so you'll have that to go back to. And I'll be here on Wednesday if anybody has any questions or want to show me what you're working on.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, have a good day.
You too.